Hi everyone, this is Kartik. We'll be just starting in a couple of minutes. We're just waiting for our guest, CP Gurnani ji. So just bear with us for a minute.
Yeah, Kartik, I'm here.
Hi, good evening, sir.
Good evening, good evening.
Not able to see
I'm
you.
not able to start the video, but I am right here.
So should we give you a minute to figure out your video?
Anyway, doesn't matter. As long as you guys can hear me.
No, we can hear you perfectly. We can hear you perfectly.
Yeah, it's okay. You're start.
So let me, while sir sees if he can start, should we go ahead and start, or are we waiting for anybody else?
Start because I don't know why it's not working, but right now the video is not working.
Okay.
Let's get started.
Sure, no worries. So Rajni, we are good to go? I think Rajni.
Yes, Kartik, please start.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of Leader Speak here at AIMA. And we are proud to have our online session partner, BML Munjal University as well with us. Today we've got a power pack session, and it's going to be broken into two components. So the first part, we're going to have a conversation with Mr. CP Gurnani, and then the second half is going to be with Saket Modi, whom we all know as a cybersecurity expert. So both these sessions are going to be like anybody who's got any slightest curiosity in technology is going to be completely mesmerized and be amazed by both these sessions. So, just as a context, in terms of why we even thought about doing this session with both these gentlemen, we all know that technology, whether we talk about IT services or IT products, is in many ways one of the largest exports of our country and is a major employer of manpower, both skilled, semi-skilled in our country. And with whatever is happening right now, so there is a case in point of both positives and negatives. So the negatives has been that the workload globally has reduced in terms of people doing budgetary cuts around IT, which leads to some unemployment and layoffs. But at the same time, more and more people are working from home, and people are trying to embrace technology in whatever processes they do. So that's also giving a boost to IT in general. So we're gonna, and while they do that, there are also concerns around, network security, cyber security, when people are using unsecured networks while working at home or using shared networks. So that's why we wanted to cover both the aspects, and that's where sort of Saket comes in with his expertise. So for the first part of the conversation, we're extremely delighted and honored to have Mr. CP Gurnani with us. Mr. CP Gurnani ji, our AIMA DG Rekha Sethi couldn't join, but she sends her best wishes to welcome you. And he needs no welcome. Everybody knows about him. We all see him and read about him in the newspaper. But I'm still going to do a very quick introduction so everybody knows more about what he's doing. He's the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Tech Mahindra. He's also been now, as of 1st April 2020, been appointed onto the board of Mahindra and Mahindra as a non-executive, non-independent director. He has actually led Tech Mahindra through a transformational journey and also did one of the biggest turnarounds in the corporate history when the acquisition and merger of Satyam happened, 10, 15 years back. He's got a long career spanning over 35 years. We know he has held multiple roles in Pero Systems, HP, HCL, so on and so forth. He is also, his sense of entrepreneurial silo management has been, lauded by media and everybody. He's a big time motivator. All the young entrepreneurs like myself completely adore him, admire him for what he has done for the IT in this country. He's also served as the chairman of NASSCOM for the year 2016-17. He has been facilitated with an honorary doctorate degree by V. Surendra Sai, University of Technology. He's also presented his perspectives on in the future among the top 100 global CEOs as part of the Wall Street Journal CEO Council back in 2016. He's also been awarded the best CEO of the year, best CEO of the year for 3 years in a row by Business Today. And on a personal front, he strongly believes in the concept of promoting child education. So I think it also boils down to the concept of individual social responsibility. Everybody talks about CSR. I think CP is also leading from the front, and he's also co-founded Titliya, an NGO which is located in Noida, for spreading smiles, happiness, and education to more than 140 underprivileged girl child. Before we get into the conversation, CP, we're all hearing about what is happening right now in the world. And, in these sessions, my tone has always been positive. We don't want to get into the discussion of what happened, why happened, how we're going to come out of this. But we always focus more on what are the opportunities and why this is the best time to try out some of the new things and how you can scale in this current times when everybody's crying over spilled water. I recently got a chance, and I'm sure many of our audience here also heard and listened to your recent quarterly earnings call about Tech Mahindra. And we're not going to get into numbers. I'm sure a lot of journalists have pestered you for the numbers. But there was a very important point which you mentioned in that call, which was that you're going to expect that the focus on digital transformation, remote working, and network modernization will recover in the medium term. Just building on that remote working concept, we all know recently TCS has said that by 2025, they're going to have almost their 25% workforce working remotely. So that means 75% of the workforce will not be required to work out of offices. Only 25% will work out of office. The rest will work from home. Many people are calling it, they're ridiculing the idea that it's not possible, it's not feasible. Although some other companies are already talking about how they can implement such remote working environment. There are tools and technologies people are talking about to increase the productivity of employees when they're working from home. HR experts have come in to talk about how you can, replicate that water cooler chat environment in remote working. I just wanted to get a sense, and many of us have asked this question, that what is your sense as a technology leader? Do you see that sort of numbers which people are talking about, that a significant part of workforce can deliver technology, products and services remotely working in a distributed environment? Or do you still see that it's a long way ahead and we are just sort of, testing out the waters at this stage and it's too early, premature to talk about those large numbers? What are your thoughts on that?
So again, thank you, Kartik, and frankly, for 300 plus participants on this call, they probably are more keen to hear Saket. I'm one of the huge admirers of Saket because he and another hero in my life called John Chambers have collaborated to create this cybersecurity behemoth. Let's look back, and I wish this was a session where we had devoted a little more time, because on one end, this is a landscape scale crisis. Unexpected, touches every individual around the world, directly or indirectly, touches every country. And different people are reacting differently to this challenge. And clearly, the biggest part of this challenge is the uncertainty about tomorrow. Most other crises, you have fought an enemy knowing that this is probably going to last a summer or a winter or a year. So I do know, and I pray for each one of you and your family members and your friends that you stay healthy and you all are happy and connected. Let's start visualizing the normal or the new normal. Why I call new normal as the normal is that 90s, year 2000 crisis happens, offshore becomes a reality. A few years later, anything in technology effectively means Indians. It could be Indians in California, it could be Indians in Europe, or it could be Indians in our universities, or it could be in any university around the world. Come 2000, you can actually pick up, come the 2020s, you could pick up any organization chart of any company, the chance by an Indian. And I'm not trying to make this an India conversation, but then I am on an AIMA forum, I am on a youth forum, and I need to take this into account that India will continue to be the technology leader. Yes, till yesterday, 4 million of Indians were working from beautiful campuses. Some of you have had the chance to visit the technology campuses, and the other almost 10-15% of us were working from beautiful campuses in Seattle or in Bay Area or in Europe or in Israel or in Ireland. The point I'm trying to make is we have, in a way, been working remotely for a long time. Now, what does the new normal suggest? Does the new normal means virtual weddings? Does the new normal mean a remote patient health? Does the new normal mean that if the world needed a push for online retail, that it would have happened, and it is happening as we speak? So my personal first assumption for the leadership here, and it is a leadership which gives you in opportunities. Number one, it's going to be the world which is going to live on steroids, and those steroids are going to be called digital steroids. Anything and everything that you can imagine can happen virtually will happen. Till about few years ago, how many of us had heard of conducting a board meeting on video conferences? And we used to have these fancy equipments called Cisco Telepresence. Yes. And I'm sure there are many companies which have the same environment even today. That today we would have 500 participants on a forum like this, and all of us actively engaged. And it's a company which is probably today valued at $40 billion. Yesterday was $50 billion. 4 months ago was probably $16 billion. All on one basic assumption: the world wants to go virtual. And it is not that this is the first company. Remember, Microsoft bought Skype. Remember Google Hangout. Remember Cisco Telepresence and Cisco WebEx. All these companies exist today. They are formidable and they are big. But Zoom decided to bring it to the consumer arena. So what is my second assumption? The second assumption is that, guys, whatever you think of, please think of scale. Because it is not about work from home. The scale tells you that we have an opportunity. The world would start looking to a Tech Mahindra or a Saket for a solution. Imagine what a home is. Home is a node on a network. And that network, you need productivity tools, you need security environment, you need to be compliant, and you also need to visualize what working at home means. Do you think an apartment designer will change? Because you can't have the dog and the cat or the kids or the grandmother in your own environment when you're working from home. So what will change? The change will come because you have thought about it. You have designed the right level of apartment. Maybe even 1,000 square foot apartment will now be a duplex apartment. And why? Because you are now saying husband, wife is working, the kid and the maid or anyone else is downstairs. Now, this is not a imagination. And why I need to bring that in, scenario in front of you is because you will have to design the technology and the IT systems around it. The operation today, which was being carried out on 3G and 4G, will eventually require a 5G setup. That means governments and the telcos around the world will set up a 5G network faster than ever before. Now, we have all visualized various scenarios and we have all come to certain realities. The certain realities are that if it is digital, there will always be requirements which are homogeneous. The homogeneous requirements means network, cloud, AI, and cybersecurity. These are requirements which go hand in hand. And why do I bring in AI out here? Because there are two parts to this. Number one, if you are not intelligent, if you are not weaving in a level of connectivity with the human beings and a problem solving approach, then you are saying, I am ready to be automated myself. You don't want to be that. Remember, we used to go to the airport, we used to stand in a queue to get a boarding pass. Then we started going to the airport, we started talking to a machine to get a boarding pass. Today, you print your own boarding pass, then you stop printing your boarding pass, you carried it on your mobile. It happened in front of you. Some jobs got taken away right in front of you, and that time we did not take into account this is AI and automation. So keep looking, keep reasoning, and I know that we need to get into a conversation mode. So my modeling for future is three things. Number one is human engineering, social empathy. That is going to play a very, very important role. New technologies can take their environment. You can be working from home. I think gyms will start becoming more like lounges. You know, people will go to the gym not only to work out, but I think they will be going there as a social interaction. Now, you can continue to imagine a scenario. Similarly, number two, from my perspective, it doesn't matter whether you're working from home. I mean, the reality is that one day you had a WeWorks, second day you decided that you are going to have a work from home. The embracing technology will become an integral part of each individual. And embracing technology includes robotics, includes AI, includes deep machine learning, includes cloud and 5G. So my point is that, guys, it doesn't matter whether you are commerce, whether you are arts, or whether you are a painter or a scientist, do embrace the fundamentals of technology. Future belongs to you. If you excel in human interaction, if you are embracing technology, and number third, what I call learning how to work in partnership. Doesn't matter virtual, doesn't matter whether the company is small, doesn't matter whether the company is big. No one individual will now be creating mega business houses. Not many people will be creating mega plants, because the world is going towards more localization. The world would now realize, yesterday we went for the global supply chain, now we need to go in for localization. Think about it. One day you need a mega power plant, but today, if you start doing your micro power generation, you know, thanks to solar power, thanks to waste to electricity conversion, thanks to localized metering capability available, why do I need to go on a main grid? So there is this desire for partnership. It could be a financial partnership. It could be creating tools on a lease, but you want the money. So as long as we are agile, We continue to partner with each other. I think the technology and the human engineering, all three of them working together, we are the ones who will master the change. COVID is an opportunity. Let's seize that opportunity. So Kartik,
Right.
I'm going to take a pause here. You
Sure.
choose whether you
Yeah, I'm
want
gonna
to
keep
answer
sharing with you
questions right
questions because a
now.
lot of people are, as you speak, a lot of people are sending me private questions as well. So I'm gonna consolidate and keep sharing with you in a sort of a rapid fire manner because time is limited. So one of the questions is, you mentioned about working from home and how that's an opportunity and that's possible. A lot of people are also talking about taking it a further step, like working from hometown. As you know, in India, a lot of people from tier two, tier three cities, they all come to Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, and they take up technology jobs. And if work from home is feasible, a lot of people are now thinking, can they go back to their hometown in tier two cities and actually work from there? But there are obviously challenges around logistics. I mean, they don't have homes in which they can have that infrastructure. Internet connectivity is an issue. Cybersecurity is a problem. So that's one part of the problem. Second is, do you also see an opportunity where tier two entrepreneurs who are working on very interesting and innovative business models? I know one of them is there on the call, Savan Ladda, one of our members. He runs co-working spaces called Worky in Indore. I mean, they keep innovating about these opportunities, that how they can have these people who are coming back to tier two cities and work from hometown, and they can dovetail infrastructure sort of co-working space in their home, or give them an opportunity to do a event based pass can be given to go into this sort of a space where they can work from their hometown and still contribute working in a company. Do you see that model working out?
So again, thank you, Savan. I mean, you hosted me when I was visiting Indore, and Kartik. So let's visualize the scenario. Today, when I go to work, I go to a secure environment where me and my team members work together. We, in a way, discipline ourselves to work 7, 8, 10 hours. If we had ladies working, they bring their kids, they put them into the crash in the campus. The chances are the young people, they even have their breakfast in the cafeterias, they have their lunch in the cafeteria, and they go back home and they have a maid who comes in. Now, this is a normal young couple scenario in India in major cities. Now, look at it from a customer's point of view. The customer knows that he is giving you your data, systems, and compliance, because he's also fighting compliance with the regulators in his part of the world. Now, if I were to say tomorrow, say that I belong to Mahu or a Satna or a Bilaspur, I mean, I'm just taking these towns, so there's a names, I mean, or a Bhilwara, which has been very famous recently.
Right.
You would assume that I should be able to work in the same environment. Now today, even in this 45, 50 days, do you know that we do virtual hours on the web? We have to do some mini huddles. When you say work from home, does not mean people will not get together. So if Savan Ladda can bring in a cluster of 400 people from the same company, it is okay, they can work from Bilaspur. Or 200 people, maybe the economic size will be reduced to 100. But if you were to say one guy will work in Bilaspur, two guys in Raipur, three guys in Nagpur, I don't think that is the model which will immediately work. And there is a second
Right.
problem, Kartik.
Hmm.
The second problem is India leapfrog to the wireless infrastructure. Remember, we were copper telephony, we leapfrog to wireless. Now, if you go back and look at China, China has 30 times more fiber coming to your premises than India. China covers, and I'm only taking China just to give you the same size of the country and the same population. India, 7% of my fixed line marries the wireless to give me connectivity. In China, it is 46%. So my assumption is if we really want the tier 2 and tier 3 or a tier 4 city to come mainstream, number one, a small critical mass is required. And number two, you need fiber or 5G. My preference would be fiber and 5G because you need to have the level of redundancy to make work from home a reality.
Right, right. Fair point. And also a lot of people are asking me, since you mentioned AI, and that always opens up a can of worms. So there are two parts to it. One is a lot of SME companies who join us on this session. They ask me that, AI requires a lot of investment. You need skilled manpower. So can a SME or a small company, can they aspire to use AI? Is this still democratized, or still it's at the mercy of large enterprise companies who can make use of AI? That's part one. Second is people who are working in different jobs. They are saying with COVID, anyways, AI is going to eat up the jobs, and generally jobs are getting laid off. So do you think it's going to accelerate AI vis-a-vis with whatever is happening right now in the world? Is it going to completely make a lot of people redundant very soon, or will they still have some headway to upskill themselves?
So there are three parts to this question. Is AI only for engineers or enterprises? Number two, can AI be brought into the business aspects by an SME? Number three is, should an SME have a AI strategy? Right. I think all three are valid points. It's like anything else. Many people learn driving on their own. Kartik, I know young smart people like you don't need coaches. You saw a machine, you wanted to conquer that machine. You were probably in 7th class. Your parents didn't want you to learn driving, but you learned driving. Right? So there will be one set of people who are just a curious lot, and they make things happen by experimenting and by falling. I mean, I gave car as an example just to show a machine. Cycle could have been that machine. There is another one who will go and parents will teach them. There will be a third person who will buy more equipment than the cost of the cycle. So I consider enterprises to be those people who buy more equipment than the cost of the cycle. I believe the hybrids are the ones where the father or the mother encourages you to learn cycling. And I believe the entrepreneurs, which is many of you on this as the SMEs, who first decide what you need, then you figure out a method of finding ways to make it work. So I don't think there is a cookie cutter response, but I promise you, when I look at and meet and interact with many of the young leaders, I know they did not need a formal training. They first smell an opportunity and then they find ways to conquer it. And I promise you, those are the leaders that I salute.
Right. Very well said, sir. A lot of people are also asking that, in current situation, there are a lot of issues around network jamming, calls are dropping. With all this not getting, improved in near future, do you see a lot of pressure on companies to derive productivity? Because I know a lot of companies like SMEs, even ourselves, people just call in and say that, I'm ready to work, but what do I do? Electricity is not there, network is weak. Do you see these kind of, and sometimes people also use it as excuses, I know, but how do you see that normalizing out with the infrastructural issues in place around connectivity and network in our country? And we know 5G is still, I don't know when it's gonna come.
I love my country. I genuinely love them. I go to Shillong or I go to, even Jammu and Kashmir. I mean, Jammu and Kashmir, not lately, because obviously they were not allowed to use the internet, and they would kill me when they talk about my usage of internet. But I love this country because the same people, when it comes to using WhatsApp, have never complained. I love this country. The same people, when they want to watch YouTubes, have never complained. And now, the way Hotstar became a hottest property in the world. only because of IPL and cricket, right? So our people will then find a way of having a hotspot. They will even look at how to, share a dongle between 17 people, and they will also find ways of reducing a capital outlay by almost like literally sharing their cell phones, smartphones. So this is the reality in our world. And the reality is we have never had a perfect world, but we have always improvised. Whatever we wanted to achieve, we have achieved. And thank God for the last 53 days, 54 days, most of the urban cities, the power has held up, the network has held up. People who want to watch whatever latest serial, including the old Ramayana, have been able to watch it. So my belief is, yes, we have a problem made, but that problem is solvable. And particularly that is why the tier 2, tier 3 may not happen immediately. So for all those who are looking at relocating to their villages, guys, hold back for some time. You're better off in tier 1 and tier 2 cities only.
Okay, that's a word of caution for everyone. You know, one interesting point, CPI, somebody sharing with me, and I think you would also be facing the same issue at Tech Mahindra. The whole concept of, when you talk about business development, client relationship management, people used to take their clients for wining and dining, sit with them, understand their problem. How do you see all that relationship management aspect coming into effect when we are all working in this virtual only mode?
As I said, go back into my hypothesis for future. As I said, businesses will learn to become localized. Now, localized does not mean that fundamental of business will go away. Even in a virtual world, you need to build relationship and trust. If relationship and trust was not that important, there would have been no role of a trip advisor. Why does a trip advisor, why is trip advisor important? Why does somebody rate a hotel and tell you don't take a room facing the street, they are very noisy, or don't eat in their Indian restaurant because their Italian is better? Why? Because you started living in a virtual world, and virtually you had to pull data from somewhere, right? That is one B2C behavior. I think in B2C, this will become more and more prevalent. And again, I repeat, my second hypothesis given to you, all of you, was digitalization on steroids. Now, I'm again saying that B2B relationship with the organization, B2B building trust with somebody will not get outsourced to virtual world immediately. It may start a format of a trip advisor, that means referenceability score, etc., etc. But I do not visualize that B2B business will immediately move to the virtual world. So,
Okay.
I mean, please do not write off airlines, do not write off hotels, and please do not write off those restaurants where some of you will be taking your clients out for dinner.
Sure. And in the interest of time, I'm going to ask one question to you, CP. A lot of people are also, and many of audience here are also academicians. They run institutions, they are teaching, and they say that the whole business of education, learning and development, skilling, training, how do you see that completely getting transformed? I mean, I get calls from so many teachers. They are saying that, some of them are shy to come on a video call and teach to students. Some of them have never taught. They cannot get feedback real time. Like even in this session, many people are asking me, we can't see CP. We are so tuned to seeing somebody getting that visual feedback and cues. How do you see that transformation behaviorally happening in the whole gamut of education?
So first, let us agree that education actually was one of the first cases which entered the classroom through the digital world. So let me give you a scenario, and this is a true scenario where about 12 years ago, I went to a district which is totally in Andhra Pradesh. This is a district called Kadapa, from where YSR, then the chief minister, he was alive. He had asked me to visit what was then called a Rajiv Gandhi University. And I'm giving you a long story, but please bear with me because it has got a significance to tomorrow. I went to this university, and YSR was then the chief minister. It was his home district. I go there, and I see young students after 10th class joining this university. The word was university. The person who was escorting me, I asked him that this is such a barren land that Pilani suddenly looks like heaven. So, and Pilani, remember, this is Junjunu desert country. So anyway, they said, we have designed a scheme where from every village and every block, the topper is picked up and is brought to this school and for 11th and 12th. When they come in, they don't have money for bus fare. They have never worn a shoe. They have only in chappals, and they don't speak a word of English. They only know Telugu. Now these guys came into this environment, and I said, how's the faculty coping up with them? He said, our faculty is all remote because people would not come to Kadapa because nowadays faculty wants to know what is their job, what will be their wife's job, and what will be where their children will study. Kadapa does not have this. So the only person when you go and talk to the people in the class will be a computer coordinator. This is 12 years ago. And I go into that class and I see a young computer coordinator, not more than 20-year-old. And all the classroom was happening remotely. And I'm like, okay. I step out and I said, I want to come here every 6 months. I couldn't make it every 6 months, but I made it every year for the next 2-3 years. I saw those children transform. Now, did they transform because of the digital education? No. They transformed because the education was, the classroom education was only 1/3 of that training. 2/3 was what they studied outside the classroom. The training was a journey, and that journey included interaction with others. So go back into my hypothesis. I said human engineering, appreciation of technology, and number 3rd, learning to do partnership. If you have developed these 3 skills, you are ready for future. So I genuinely believe that I gave you a long answer, but I gave you the reason why online education is not enough.
Right. No, absolutely. And I think we're going to now also kick in Saket. Thank you so much, CP sir. I know the time was limited, but you have been so candid in your responses and you have tried at length to sort of give justice to each of those questions. So I'm sure all our audience are very happy with the details and also your learning model and skill model for the future, digital on steroids. I think all of us people are giving me notes here. So they're all taking away these pearls of wisdom and nuggets which you have shared. So thank you so much, CP sir, for sharing time with us and giving your
Kartik, I just want to, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I am available for anybody who wants to send me a mail or send me any kind of a request. I do know some of you will change the world, and particularly people like Saket and some of the people like Savan and Preeti that I have come to know. But I am available. If I can be of any help to anyone, feel free to reach out to me. And thank you, AIMA, and thank you, YLC.
Thank you so much, sir. I think you might be getting a lot of requests now from people since you have made this open a gesture that they can reach out to you, and we really appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much, sir. And we would welcome you to sort of stay back and also be part of the discussion with Saket if your schedule permits. So I'm gonna request Saket is here, right? Saket, can we see you?
Kartik, hi. Of course you
Yes.
can.
Are you? It looks like you're already in Miami.
Oh yes, I am. I made sure I come here before the lockdown.
I mean,
So
look at Saket, he's on a beach somewhere.
That's what I'm saying. He's in Miami. Everybody here is getting worried about what the future is gonna be. He's relaxing. He's already laid back.
I told you guys Saket is smart.
Yeah, I know. He sees something which obviously we are all not able to see and sort of forecast.
Sir, the good part of running a tiny little startup is that we can be remotely working from anywhere, and what better place than a beach, right?
Yeah, he's a perfect example, guys. Whoever was asking that would work from home, you can work from beach.
I mean,
Saket,
I'm willing to trade. I will do work from Miami. You come and work from my home.
Sir, the good part with you is that you have your teams distributed across the globe, right? So for you, I think it will be more productive if you're in Miami, given the business that you do mostly is in the US, and I'm pretty sure that'll be awesome. And we should talk about swapping places, sir. At least I can learn a lot from you, and that is the thing. In fact, I was going to tell Kartik that I'm not sure if I even deserve to be being called out right after you, sir, because the benchmark that you have with everything is that you said, but more importantly, with everything that you're doing. I mean, people like me, we are like miles behind, and we really look up to people like you, sir. And that is the reason why I think most people on this call would realize that somebody like you, who I know is so extremely busy, that you saying this, that look, reach out to me anytime you want, is itself is such a huge blessing to the whole Indian young youth community. And I've taken that liberty of reaching out, sir, and you've responded every time, so I can't be thankful enough. And I think we're all super lucky to have you, sir. So thank you so much.
Okay, Kartik, I mean, I'm not able to join the chat, but people wanted to get my mail ID. I think the best is CEO office at techmahindra.com.
Okay, I'm gonna write that, sir, and share with everybody.
Yeah. So CEO office at techmahindra.com.
Guys, I'm just writing it in the chat for everybody's reference. I've sent it. So you can all reach out to sir for any support, anything you want to bounce off, get his feedback. He's gonna be there. Thank you so much, CP sir, again. So guys, I'm gonna introduce Saket. I know by now you've all, already heard a lot about him, and you know how CP sir also admires the kind of work he's doing. He's one of those prodigies we are so lucky to have coming out of India. As a quick introduction about Saket, Saket is the co-founder and CEO of Lucideus. It's an enterprise cyber risk quantification CRQ platform. So that's a new word for me, Saket. I'm learning something today. So that's what he does. And, he founded Lucideus back in 2012 while he was still in final year of engineering. So here people are talking about how they're going to upskill themselves, what kind of education will happen. So here we have an entrepreneur who's like a proverbial, I didn't think you dropped out, but like a college, entrepreneur who worked out of his dorm and built a company. And his company is incubated from IIT Bombay, and it's backed by Cisco's former chairman and CEO, John Chambers, which CP sir was also highlighting. And Lucideus today protects the digital infrastructure of multiple Fortune 500 companies around the world with its cyber risk measurement and mitigation platform called SAFE, perfect name. Saket is a part of Fortune magazine's 40 Under 40. He looks still very young, Saket. Entrepreneur magazine 35 Under 35. Forbes magazine 30 Under 30. Oh, sorry. So it's been like ever since he started the company, he's been winning awards and accolades. And Government of India also awarded him with the title of Champions of Change in 2017. I know he also did some advisory work supporting around Team and all those kind of apps. So we are really lucky to have you with us, Saket. You are a true embodiment of what we stand here at YLC Young Leader Council at AIMA, and you are an inspiration for a lot of our young leaders today here. Just building and a very warm welcome. We can't show you with the applause here because everybody is on mute, but I'm sure they're all clapping in their rooms. So, Saket, just building on the conversation with CP sir, we were talked about how this remote working from home concept would evangelize, how tier two could step in, and how this whole model of, people working remotely could be fruitful. But at the same time, there are cons around it, right? I mean, I know you are very vocal about whatever is happening at Zoom, and we're still using the platform. Apologies. And how these kind of tools and technologies, how people working from home, working on shared network, unsecured network, same device being used by multiple family members, people walk in and walk out when you are doing a confidential work. Those kind of issues still exist in our country, especially in tier two towns. So the broad gamut of cyber security or cyber risk quantification, as you call it, how does that play out when more and more companies are looking to have their workforce distributed and working remotely from home?
Sure. Kartik, first of all, thank you so much for the invitation. It's truly an honor to be here. And, especially you make me speak after CP Sir. So that itself is a huge honor. Uh, to everybody on the call, I know there are a lot of people who are entrepreneurs or potential entrepreneurs. What I can tell you is that, for good or bad, the introductions generally only carry all the awards and accolades, but that is not the real reason or real thing that you get to learn anything from. I think in my session today, out of the gazillion mistakes that I've made in my life, probably if I can share a few and some, I just hope that all of you make new mistakes and not repeat the mistakes that others have done or I have done. And I think, I think that would be for me an important takeaway, that I can, whatever little I can talk about, especially the mistakes on that side. I am a first-time entrepreneur. I'm 29 years of age, Kartik. So I like saying that, the odds of me succeeding is actually very low, because generally, this was a Harvard study which was done that typically when you are a third-time entrepreneur, there's a higher odd of success with what things are. And if you see a lot of successful companies which have been there, they've been done by, on an average, median which was taken was an entrepreneur which would be there for the third time. So I'm a first-time entrepreneur. What that means is that I know very, very little about how do you scale businesses, how do you build businesses. And that's where I've been extremely fortunate to be really surrounding myself with some of the best people on the planet, who are my advisors, who are my mentors, who are really people who I look up to, who can actually tell me not just the awards and the accolades, which is fine. I mean, that's not really important. That's a byproduct of what you really do. But more importantly, this is a very stupid thing that you're thinking, Saket, and this is what you can do to think and make things happen in a better way, right? And in that's where having people like John Chambers comes into the picture. In fact, what CP sir did not tell is he was very, very kind enough that when John was actually evaluating our company, I mean, remember, I'm a tiny little startup based out of India, where and I somehow luckily stumbled into John Chambers. And one of the people who he had picked up the phone and asked about me, about the company, was actually CP sir. So in some ways that I got John as my investor and advisor, I think CP sir is again there to thank for that. But the reason I'm saying that is, for me, who's a 29-year-old first-time entrepreneur, who's only seen the Indian market. I'm born and brought up in Howrah, which is a smaller town than Calcutta. It's on the banks of Calcutta, between the Ganges, if you know. I spent almost 20 years there. So for me to be able to do things, I always need the right kind of people who I can count upon and look up to. And therefore, having these mentors, advisors who you genuinely learn from, I think creates all the difference in the world. And I've been very, very fortunate with that. Obviously, that coupled with my passion for technology, because I'm one of those guys who hardly scored passing marks, or I hardly passed in any of the subjects in my school. My teachers were always extremely unhappy with me. On the other side, I was always the class topper or the batch topper for mathematics and computer science. These were two things, and physics. So, these were two or three things which I think I was reasonably good at. And I just got lucky because I was doing my computer science engineering, and in my final year of engineering is where I got to start this company. And it's now been 8 years that we've been running this. We've been very fortunate to actually become, last year we raised a $7 million round, which made us India's largest cybersecurity startup. Nothing to be too proud of, because I like saying this to my team, that it doesn't talk too much about us. It talks about how immature is the cybersecurity startup ecosystem of India. Because if you throw a stone on a cybersecurity startup in Palo Alto, it falls on a startup which is probably 5 times our size. So, so again, the reason I'm saying that is not neither to undermine what we have done, at the same time not to be overly happy about what things are, because we know that we have a very, very long way to go. And hopefully starting from being the best in the country to one day hopefully becoming the best in the world is what we absolutely aspire to go to. Now, coming to your question, Kartik, about the new normal that CP sir also highlighted.
And sorry, some people are also telling me that, Saket, they have seen videos, he hacks your phone. So they ask me, should we change some setting of our phone? He remotely hacks the phone.
The good part is that, it doesn't matter what you change. Probably I can still hack you.
So guys, be careful.
No, come on. I mean, guys, don't worry. Make sure your operating system of the phone is updated. If you do that, you're pretty much secured from 99% of the attacks out there. So that is there. But coming to your point, Kartik, about, security of the new normal and securing the new way of living, right? There is a very interesting concept in cybersecurity that is not just 2 months old. It's actually a few years old. It's called a concept of zero trust. I'll explain you what this means in a very simple way. Traditionally, companies used to have a network. Anything as a system outside the network would be untrustable. And any system inside the network would be trustable. Right? Because if you're a laptop within the corporate network, you would trust that network. And anything which would be outside, you'd say, no, I can't trust this. I'm not sure, it might have malware, blah, blah, blah. A few years back, this was a very, very senior analyst at Forrester, which really came up with this concept, and it then became mainstream after that. A concept of zero trust, where he said that, look, the boundary of a network has now stopped or has ceased to exist. With BYOD, with everybody having their cell phones and laptops, and where their work emails, their work communications, their documents, you really can't stop somebody today. Or if you do that, that's actually counterproductive, which is there. So this concept of zero trust, where you say that, look, I will not trust any device anymore. Whether it's outside my network, whether it's inside my network, I don't care, and I will not trust that device anymore. So that is a concept that really started picking a lot of traction. We've been very fortunate to be working some very, very large Fortune 200 companies over the last, especially over the last 12 months. And I don't know one Fortune 200 CISO which today does not talk about zero trust. So this was a conversation which was already happening. I would say it's accelerated, many, many folds because of the COVID situation, right? I mean, if you know the popular joke, which is there, right? Who was responsible for the digital transformation of your project or of your company? And the answers are, CEO, CDO, CIO, or COVID-19. And the answer is COVID-19, right? So given that, we've somehow hyper accelerated the whole journey of the whole mankind moving into the digital era, the zero trust model becomes more important than ever, where you basically say that, look, I will not trust anything which is there. And I will go ahead and I will verify, and I will go ahead and I will try to say that, look, I can't trust you. But at the end of the day, you can't do business if you can't trust something. And that's where the concept of measuring trust comes into the picture. What that means is, Kartik, where, you go ahead and say, so think about it like this, right? If somebody came to you with a warm temperature, now, in order for you to know that the person doesn't have fever, or more importantly, doesn't have COVID-19 today, what you would do is you would actually get a thermometer and get an exact score or a number of what is the X degree Fahrenheit is the body temperature of the person. And if it is less than, 98.4, you know that the person is safe. If that's not, the person is not safe. But think of a scenario where you're running an organization, and it can be a small company with 25 laptops, right? Can you tell me, forget about 25 laptops, the laptop you're dialing in from right now, Kartik, can you tell me how secured is your laptop right now?
Objectively, no.
Can you tell me how secured is your cell phone right now?
No, objectively,
Can you tell me how much battery is there in your cell phone?
Yes.
You can objectively, in real time, tell me how much battery is there on your cell phone. But you don't have
Right.
an option for cybersecurity quantification. That is the precise problem statement that my platform, my company is trying to solve, where we democratize what is the meaning of levels or quantification of cybersecurity, where when you talk about a laptop, the laptop gets a score of 3.7 out of 5, and you know whether you can trust that laptop or not. And if the score of the laptop is zero point 0.5 out of 5, you know it's not trustable. The scores are always between 0 to 5. That's a mathematical statistical model we have built based on Bayesian networks, a lot of risk analysis using Monte Carlo simulation. We built that in collaboration with MIT in Boston, and a lot of risk modeling principles that really went in to go ahead and to an organization give a score per IP address, per employee. So now you will have, if a company has 100,000 employees, you're talking about a scenario where the employee has to say that my current safe score is 3.11. And you know how they will know it? Because it'll be an app on their own phone, which will actually
Okay.
talk about their cybersecurity risk score, that, whether they can be trusted, not trusted, etc., etc. So it's
Would it
all
also start giving like alerts when the score is going down so it can proactively fix, or will it only report reactively?
absolutely not only proactively give alerts, the alerts will be a function of something called an SIEM. An SIEM
Okay.
tool, Kartik, is called a security incident and event monitoring tool. Any
Okay.
company, large company which is matured, has an SIEM tool. If they have a
Hmm.
SOC called Security Operations Center, they'll have
Yeah, the
an
incident
SIEM tool.
reporting tool. Yeah, priority
Now,
1, 2, 3, that sort of work. Yeah.
exactly. So P1, P2, P3. The way
Right.
P1, P2, P3 comes is because they
Hmm.
take the logs of every laptop. Every time you click on your laptop, it creates a log. So
Hmm.
whether that log is an incident or it is not an incident is the job of an SIEM tool to find out.
Okay.
So our platform syncs with that. That's one out of 100 other things that it syncs with and senses. And the moment that your laptop, which every day gets switched on at 8 a.m. in the morning, is on till say 12 at night, but suddenly if somebody is trying to log into your laptop at 4 a.m. in the morning, it will suddenly give you a pop-up and say your score is down. Tell me, was that you or was that not you? And if you say it was not you, it blocks that intrusion. And there's something called SOAR, which is security orchestration and automation, where it automatically blocks that IP through which things are coming in. And basis on that, you're able to do things.
So it's like your virtual network administrator of sorts, right? You don't need anybody to physically monitor and do all that. So it's like doing it on its own autonomously.
And that's where artificial intelligence comes in, Kartik, where you actually go ahead. A lot of these things are predictable, are things where you can go and say, look, if there is a intrusion happening in 2 a.m. India time and it's not you, it's very
Mm-hmm.
obvious, right, that you want to block that. You don't need a
Mm.
human to go and then block those things which are there. And that's where a lot
Right.
of these occur. And by the way, they are far more efficient, they are far more accurate than a human
Hmm.
intervention which is required. And that's where I keep saying my teams also that, look, I think, yes, the jobs will go away with everything that's coming up, but I think the mundane jobs go away. I mean, the job of
Hmm.
really being an artist, of really being a scientist, of designing new logics which are there, will go to an absolute all-time high in the near future. Because and I personally feel that's what humans were always meant to be, right? It was
But do you
not
think your
supposed to be.
even the modeling, which you said about those complex words, I'm sure many of our audience have not heard Bayesian, Monte Carlo. We all know Monte Carlo casinos, but like those kind of models, do you think AI can also do it, or do you still think that humans would be required to do that sort of modeling exercise as well?
So both of the points which you mentioned, let's take Monte Carlo simulation. The reason why Monte Carlo simulation was made was because of the Manhattan Project, which was basically the hydrogen bomb, and a lot of
Right.
computations that had to be done in terms of how much fuel will actually be consumed and what would be the interactions between various kinds of atomic, subatomic particles, and it was there. I would say humans can't do that, and that's why you have things like Bayesian networks and Monte Carlo simulation. But to your point, the logic of applying what, where, I mean, a lot of it can be done by humans, a lot of it can be done by machines which are there. And that's why the future is extremely exciting when you really talk about the intersection of physical and digital. because there's so much that can be done. And in true sense, I would say the future would belong to people who can think outside the box, because the box will be so capable of doing what is in the box, whether it's faster computation, more accurate computation, working 24 hours, etc., which a human being can really never, compare themselves with and do things with, Kartik.
Right. Right. In fact, we have got somebody who's completely thinking out of the box. He's asking, can someone even hack your SIEM tool? Or how do they trust? What's the trust score of your tool?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So there have been multiple instances where the SIM tools have also been hacked in the past. But it's almost like saying that when you get a bodyguard for yourself, can the bodyguard shoot you? Well, the answer will always remain yes. But then that's where you get, a bodyguard from a reputed, a credible agency which is there. Does that mean that it's 100% sure that the person will not shoot you? You're never 100% sure. And that's where risk analysis, risk modeling comes into the picture. And that's where knowing how much can you trust and what degree of trust that you have on people really comes into the picture, Kartik.
Right. And this is the favorite question of many people, and they keep asking me every time that, what is this deal with using Zoom and these kind of tools? What is the real risk? Everybody knows on a cursory level that somebody mentioned end-to-end encryption. God knows what that really means. But people have just picked up words and phrases and they have been creating panic that, don't use this app, use this app. Tell us in very simple language that what are the real issues with using a video conferencing tool? What are the things to look out for? And are there any reasonable measures of protection that people can use to safeguard themselves? And what kind of risks are there? What can be really hacked if they use an unsecure tool for video conferencing?
So let's take Zoom as an example, because that's a pretty popular subject of bashing these days when it comes to security. There are various kinds of vulnerabilities in Zoom which were pointed out. To name a few, one was called Zoom bombing, because every Zoom session was basically a 9 to 11 digit numerical ID. And
Right.
all of those sessions were originating from a central server of Zoom. You could easily run a brute force attack where you write a
Okay.
script. Remember, 9 times a particular number or the permutation combination of that number,
Hmm.
and keep trying those numbers again and again on that server. The odds are you will hit one number where the meeting is on. And if the meeting doesn't have a password, if it doesn't have a waiting lounge, it becomes a very,
Hmm.
very easy way for anybody to, Zoom bomb you. Now,
Right.
that's not a good thing to happen, but it is still not as bad. So I would say those are vulnerabilities that it's an unfortunate thing. Have a password for your meetings, have a waiting lounge enabled, but that's not the key reasons why Zoom should not be used. There were more deadly attacks on the client version of Zoom. So if you're using Mac, if you're using Windows, the executable that is Zoom that had some buffer overflow vulnerabilities, using
Hmm.
which somebody could see the files on your system, which was the serious deal which is there. Now, the moment a vulnerability comes out in the public, Zoom patches it. It's been a
Hmm.
series of vulnerabilities that Zoom has really come out with in the recent past, and patches also have come in. So, should you not use Zoom? I would not say that go that extreme. Just making sure that you're using the latest and the updated version of Zoom is the most critical thing, more than anything else. Otherwise, I would say Zoom is as secured as a lot of other platforms. And I don't think there's like a super panic for a Zoom that, look, if you're using Zoom, everybody would be able to snoop into you. That is not true. Yeah.
Okay. So that's very helpful. And what advice do you have for somebody who's running a simple business? Let's take the example from earlier conversation of Savan in Indore running a setup. He's a SME or MSME, for lack of a better word. What can he do to immediately start safeguarding himself, getting educated on cybersecurity? He may not be having that sort of enterprise level maturity to implement very complicated tools. He may not have staff in house who can manage it. So what kind of tips or recommendation would you give for an SME to actually start caring for cybersecurity and implement it in their organization?
So, Karthik, that's a very good question. Unfortunately, I don't have a short answer to it. What I can definitely do for your people out here is, because our focus as an organization has always been in large enterprises. We've been very fortunate to get some really large customers around the world. We've not been focused on the younger organizations. However, we do have a set of recommendations that we have. Some very, very, I would say, almost free of cost approaches that you can have, starting from enabling two-factor authentication across your emails, which is there, till making sure that you have SSL certificates on your website if you're getting some login happening, till basically going ahead and having a backup or an anti-malware solution. A lot of them are available free of cost, especially these days. So putting all of that together, Kartik, what I can do is I can probably have my team put together a one pager with probably the top 10 to-dos for a younger business to do, to make sure that that evades 80 to 90% of the risk of companies, and you can probably circulate it to your entire organization.
That
And
would be really helpful and
yeah,
very appreciated.
I will make sure that we do that. Yeah.
And do you also, I know we are running short of time, but do you also see an opportunity for educating and training young people on cybersecurity because I know as a profession, a lot of people are now warming up to AI, IoT, but cybersecurity and digital marketing, but cybersecurity still people sort of think it's very hard, very difficult. Even with my conversations I have with education institutions, they all see, no, yeah, we don't get faculty for cybersecurity. It's very complicated to teach and learn. How do you see that interplaying? Because companies like yourself also need trained manpower who know cybersecurity to build these kind of tools and solutions. What do you see the opportunity in that? Because we have a lot of people from academic institutions also joining in us here.
What I would say out there is, Kartik, you're absolutely right. Access to good cybersecurity professionals are still a challenge, not just in India, but across the globe. A lot of people don't know about this, but we actually partner with various universities, both public and private, to provide some postgraduate diploma courses in cybersecurity. One of our key partnerships is with Delhi University. And for the last 2 years, we are officially partners of Delhi University, where we run a one-year postgraduate diploma course at Shahid Sukhdev Singh College, where we go ahead and give the cybersecurity one-year course, which is there. And by the way, the fees of the course for the full year, I think, is around 45 or 50,000 rupees. So we don't really do it for the money. And by the way, even that money doesn't come to us. So we purely do this from a perspective of trying to give back in whatever little way possible. We are ourselves very, very small, but whatever little we can do, we'd love to do that. And there are a lot of such courses which are available online, especially in today's day and age. Coursera, Udemy, there are so many incredible online free of cost platforms available for learning, really going deep down into whatever subject of interest you've got. In cybersecurity, if somebody is particularly interested, I highly recommend a website called securitytube.com. It's a very, very beautiful website with incredibly smart instructor, a guy called Vivek Ramachandran. And he's somebody who's done a very, very good job. Almost majority of the courses out there are free of cost. So these are some very genuine sources of really going and learning cybersecurity. And I would say that, if you really want to learn, there are too many avenues. The only thing is you should only go to cybersecurity once you've got your fundamentals of cyber very, very clear. Which is, if you don't understand how computer science works, how programming works, how networking works, how operating systems work, how registers and the CPU works, data structures work, there is no point in going in cybersecurity, because then you would only become a script kiddie, where you're taking a script, running that without really knowing what's happening inside the script. In that way, it's you can have a very mediocre career path where you can, your reason of growing would be talking to people or trying to play the organization or teams around, but will really not be your core competence of knowing what's happening and then tweaking things in that so that it becomes more efficient and it becomes more usable for others. So yeah, so that's where it is, Kartik.
Right, that's very. And then guys, I've also written that website securitytube.com if anybody wants to refer to it. And I'm just going to take last question in the interest of time. So a lot of people are asking me, is there also a B2C version of this? Like you have this SIET tool or a digital objectifying score, which you mentioned about per IP or per device. People are asking for their own devices or their own laptops. Is there a way that they can quantify and see next to their battery what is their cybersecurity score? Is that something possible, or are you guys like working on something like this?
Yeah, so Kartik, without divulging a lot of details, I can say that a lot of work is happening on that direction from our own company. and
Okay.
we are planning to launch it very, very soon. And for the consumers, we will absolutely keep it free of cost, where people can
Okay.
absolutely download it and actually use that. So it'll be available very, very soon, Kartik. And if you would be open, probably once we launch it, we'd love to come back at your platform and talk more about it and make sure that at least
Absolutely.
your organization members are extremely secured.
So that's a welcome gesture, Saket, definitely. And thank you so much for also. I've taken it down as a commitment that you're going to send me that one pager which we can share with all our
Certainly.
members in terms of how you can enable cybersecurity in your organization, whether big or small. So with that, we come to the end of the session. Thank you so much, Saket. And I don't know if CP sir is still with us. He has been a great help and a great support for our session. Really appreciate you spending time openly and candidly sharing whatever you are doing. And I'm sure we all have learned some of these basic terms and technologies, and we're all a bit cyber security aware. I know I am after this session. So it's been really helpful. You've been very kind with your time. I know it's like right in the middle of action for you. A lot of companies would be reaching out to you for cybersecurity advice. And I'm sure many people here on our platform would also reach out to you. Many people have even asked me to share your email ID. If that's okay with you, I mean, with your permission, I can. You can let me know, and they might
Yeah,
reach out
yeah,
to you
I'm
for some.
yeah, I'm very, very comfortable in doing that. It's s@lucidistech.com. I just shared it
I,
with everybody on the chat.
okay. So see, that's the advantage with tech guys. My job is easy. They're gonna anyways type it and share with you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate you doing that, Saket.
No,
So
absolutely,
with
Karthik.
that,
Thank you. It's an honor to be on your session, and there'll be a lot of amazing people who are listening to this. Whatever I can do, whatever little I can do, with all the mistakes I've made, if people can learn from that, nothing like it. And I think we're all in this together.
great thought. Thank you so much, Saket. Thanks so much, Sanjay ji from AIMA, Rajni Yadav, for putting this all together from AIMA. And we thank everybody who joined us. I'm sorry we couldn't cover all the questions, but as both the speakers have been kind enough to share their details with you, you can directly reach out to them for any questions. And we look forward to seeing you soon for the next session. Stay safe, stay at home. Thank you so much. Have a great evening
Thank,
ahead.
thank you, everybody. Bye bye.